welcome back to our YouTube channel. Another week, another video. Today, we're discussing how to craft impactful recommendation letters. Whether you find yourself tasked with writing a letter or are in need of one, this video is your comprehensive guide to crafting an exceptional letter that will truly distinguish itself. Writing a recommendation letter is a necessary skill in various facets of life. From academic admissions to professional endorsements, each letter serves as a vital tool to highlight the strengths and achievements of individuals in a compelling manner. Throughout this video, we'll navigate the intricacies of recommendation letters, exploring how to effectively showcase a candidate's qualifications and character traits. It's not just about conveying information. It's about fostering a connection that resonates with the reader. Before you begin writing, it is essential to understand the purpose of the letter. Typically, letters of recommendation are requested for educational applications, job applications, scholarships, or volunteering opportunities. The letter should provide insight into the candidate's qualifications, skills, character, and suitability for the specific position or opportunity. There are three types of recommendation letters. Number one, academic recommendation letter. Number two, employment recommendation letter. And number three, character recommendation letter. Academic recommendation letters are typically required to be submitted by students during the admission process of graduate and undergraduate schools. Generally, each prospective student is requested to submit up to 3 references, which can be written by any education professional familiar with the candidate's academic background. Academic recommendation letters include recommendation letter for graduate and undergraduate schools, recommendation letters for scholarships, and recommendation letters for fellowship programs. Then we have the employment recommendation letters. This type makes up the most popular type of recommendation letter. Sometimes, employers can ask you to submit up to 3 recommendation letters as part of your job application. More often though, a recruiter might ask for a recommendation letter if they already like your resume and want to learn more about you. Employment recommendation letters are written by former or current co-workers, employers, or supervisors. If you can choose, pick someone with more years of experience than you. After all, the more senior they are, the more weight their recommendation carries. Employment recommendation letters include recommendation letter for a co-worker and recommendation letter for a former employee. And finally, we have character recommendation letters, also known as personal references. These are used to describe an individual's personality by someone who knows them well, including close friends, co-workers, or employers. Personal references serve many purposes, the primary ones being court cases, dealing with criminal issues such as drunk driving, offenses, or legal situations such as child adoption procedures. Did you know it is not uncommon for a potential landlord or even an immigration official to ask for a personal reference? Personal recommendation letters include recommendation letter for a friend, recommendation letter for a tenant, recommendation letter for a patient. Alright guys, before we talk about the structure and format of the letter, let's quickly view the information you'll need to write a letter. When someone asks you to write a letter of recommendation, make sure you ask for the following information: a copy of the candidate's resume or CV, details about the specific opportunity or program they are applying for, information about their accomplishments, experience, and goals, any specific points they would like you to highlight. Having this information will help you tailor your letter to the candidate's need and ensure that you include all relevant details. Now it's time to understand the structure of a recommendation letter. I have broken it down into 7 steps to make it super easy for you. Let's begin. Step number 1. Header. Header includes the recipient's information. For example, if you're writing a letter of recommendation for a university, then you're going to mention the university's name and their address. Similarly, if you're writing a recommendation letter for a company, then you're going to mention the company's name and their address. Step number 2 is the date. The date that you're sending the letter. Then we move on to the salutation. If you're addressing someone whose name has been provided to you, or you're writing a personal recommendation letter, the salutation can be addressed to "Dear" followed by their name. Otherwise, you may use a generic term, that is, to whom it may concern. Now we move on to the main part of the letter, which is the body paragraph. The body paragraph is further categorized into 3 paragraphs: opening paragraph, body paragraph, and the closing paragraph. The opening paragraph, also known as introduction, which first and foremost includes your statement of recommendation. That is, it's my pleasure to recommend. It is common to also briefly state who you are and what your expertise is. Now we move on to the body paragraph. This includes the overview or a description of the applicant's top skills, attributes, and strengths. It also includes a personal story, describing more of the applicant's skills and qualifications. In the end, we have the closing paragraph, also known as conclusion. Reiterate your support for the candidate and summarize their qualifications. Offer your contact information in case the reader has further questions. And lastly, we have the signature, where you repeat your name and include your full contact information. For example, phone number or email. To write a professional recommendation letter, you need to keep the following points in mind. Number 1, be specific and provide examples. One of the most critical aspects of a compelling letter of recommendation is providing specific examples and anecdotes. Instead of making vague statements like the candidate is hardworking, provide concrete examples of time when the candidate demonstrated their work ethic, such as staying late to complete a project or taking on additional responsibilities willingly. Number 2, highlight relevant qualities. Tailor your letter to highlight the qualities and skills that are the most relevant to the position or the opportunity the candidate is pursuing. If they're applying for a leadership role, emphasize their leadership abilities. If they're seeking admission to an academic program, focus on their academic achievements and intellectual abilities. Number 3, be honest and balanced. While it's essential to highlight the candidate's strength, it is equally important to be honest and balanced in your assessment. Avoid exaggeration or false praise, as it can undermine the credibility of your recommendation. If the candidate has areas for improvement, you can mention them, but do so tactfully and in a constructive manner. Number 4, proofread and edit. Before submitting the letter, proofread it carefully for grammatical errors, typos, conciseness, and clarity. A well-written and error-free letter reflects positively on both you and the candidate. Additionally, ensure that the letter meets any formatting or length requirements specified by the requesting party. Number 5, maintain a professional tone. Maintain a professional and respectful tone throughout the letter. Use formal language and avoid colloquialism or slang. Address the letter to the appropriate recipient using their title and full name. Number 6, review and finalize. After completing your initial draft, review the letter to ensure that it effectively conveys the candidate's qualifications and makes a strong case for their suitability for the opportunity. Make any necessary revisions and then finalize your letter. And finally, number 7, submit the letter. Finally, submit the letter according to the instructions provided by the candidate or the requesting organization. It's essential to meet any deadlines and follow the submission guidelines precisely. Now it's time to look at some real-world examples. Let's take a minute to read the example and then we move on to the interesting part, the discussion. It is my pleasure to write in support of the application of Mr. Ian Harris for your residency program. I have been an educator for decades with considerable experience with national organizations. I worked closely with Mr. Harris during his third-year clerkship as well as during his acting internship. As is evident from his CV, Mr. Harris has excelled throughout his career with many notable accomplishments, which I will not repeat here. I will focus on my experience with Mr. Harris, primarily those related to his clinical abilities, which demonstrate the qualities necessary for your residency: excellent knowledge, clinical skills, patient care, and leadership. I've observed Mr. Harris in both the inpatient and the outpatient setting, taught him in class, and overseen his performance during his clerkship and acting internship. In addition to considerable intellect and exemplary performances on standardized examination, Mr. Harris is a warm, engaging individual who teaches others by example, is inclusive and consistently exhibits curiosity and motivation to learn. He comes prepared for all types of learning situations, having researched the relevant topics so that he can provide quality care as well as participate actively in class and clinical supervision. Mr. Harris is articulate, well-read, and able to utilize his knowledge effectively in the clinical setting. In addition to prioritizing his own learning, Mr. Harris considers the needs of others. On multiple occasions, he has arrived in a clinic with handouts on relevant clinical topics tailored for the rest of the medical team. He has been described as one of the best students to rotate on our service by our residents and several attending physicians. A colleague was so impressed by Mr. Harris's knowledge and skills that she invited him to give a presentation during grand rounds. His presentation was outstanding, comprehensive in scope, yet presented effectively and efficiently. On his own time, Mr. Harris designed a well-conceived, thorough study protocol on risk factors for readmission within 30 days to our inpatient service. In conclusion, I'm happy to give Mr. Harris my highest recommendation for your residency program. In my experience, he is in the top 10% of all medical students with whom I have worked with over the past 20 years. If you have any additional questions or require further information, please do not hesitate to contact me. Now, this letter is strong for several reasons. Number 1. In the opening paragraph or the introductory paragraph, the writer has described how and in what context he knows the student. The writer, in the first paragraph, which is the introduction paragraph, has excellently introduced himself, showcasing his abilities and qualifications in a compelling and an articulate manner. In the body paragraph, the writer has not used generic terms. Instead, he has provided specific examples of the student's performance, including aspects that made him stand out in comparison to his peers. Mr. Harris is a warm, engaging individual who teaches others by example. Mr. Harris is articulate, well-read, and able to utilize his knowledge effectively in the clinical setting. And in the closing paragraph, which is this one, the writer has provided an estimate of how this student ranks among all the students with whom the letter writer has interacted over the past years. Let's see. He is in the top 10% of all the medical students with whom I have worked with over the past 20 years. The writer has not only highlighted the candidate's accomplishments and achievements, but has also quantified them, which will definitely catch the reader's eye. Let's take a minute to read an example of a weak recommendation letter, and then we're going to jump into our discussion. Let's begin. I'm pleased to write this letter of recommendation for John Jones, who was first introduced to me when he came to Butterworth Hospital as a fourth-year student in 2013. I found Mr. Jones to be a very hardworking individual. He took very good care of patients who were assigned to him, and he made sure that all the workup was done before the morning rounds, where he actively participated. His responsibilities included taking histories and physicals, writing SOAP notes, collecting lab reports from the previous day, writing transfer and discharge summaries, and also participating in morning reports and noon conferences. He also gave some excellent presentations. He has excellent clinical skills and displays them with mature mannerism. John is a very humble individual who gets along with all his peers and the entire medical team. It is therefore without reservation that I recommend him to you for your residency program that he may be of seeking. I am sure he will be a valuable asset to your organization. Please do not hesitate to contact me if you need further information. Now, this letter is weak for several reasons. The writer has not even introduced himself properly. No mention of his qualifications or in what capacity does he know the candidate. In the body paragraph, it's vague and non-specific, describing what any medical student would do on a rotation. No specific examples of John's work. And by writing, it is therefore without reservations that I recommend him to you for any residency program that he may be seeking. The writer has showcased that he does not even know what the student's specialty choice is. Overall, the letter is of little value in assessing the student's application. I hope this comparison has shed some light on how to properly introduce yourself, how to highlight the relevant skills and achievements and make them quantifiable. And last but not the least, how to spark the reader's interest. Now, we want to hear from you. What are your biggest takeaways from today's video? Are there specific challenges you face when writing recommendation letters that we didn't address? Share your thoughts in the comments below so we can continue the conversation and provide more tailored tips and advice. Recommendation letters are not just about endorsing someone. They're about painting a vivid picture of their strengths and potential. With the techniques we have discussed, you have the power to make a significant impact on someone's career or educational path. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a big fat thumbs up, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more content on professional development and writing tips. Your support helps us continue creating valuable resources like this one. Stay tuned for our next video. Till then, keep refining your skills and crafting letters that resonate and elevate. See you next time.